Greetings and welcome once again to Perspectives El Paso. I'm Professor Leon Blevins, Professor of Government at El Paso Community College. I want to start with a little story today. On the dark night of May the 23rd, 1986, there was a maroon Chevrolet barreling down Escudo Road in the lower valley. And the driver of that car was drunk. And he comes upon a pedestrian bridge, he goes off the road, and he runs over a woman named Maria Navarro and her son named Jorge. Jorge was only 6 years of age. And my wife had had him as a deaf child, working with him, teaching him sign language and his family members sign language from the age of 8 months until 3. Then he started to Hillside Elementary School. We get a telephone call that his foot had been cut off and he had been flown to William Beaumont Medical Center. So my wife then became involved in sign language interpretation for him. His foot was sewn back by a team of 5 physicians at Beaumont, led by Jose Monsivais, the first microsurgery of such a nature done in El Paso, Texas. The federal government picked up the expense of that because Dr. Monsivais used him as a teaching tool to teach other physicians how to do such surgery. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent on Jorge's medical care, and he lived with us several times when he was going through additional surgeries. At that time, my wife and I joined an organization called Mothers Against Drunk Driving, known as MAD. Today I have with me 3 very, very special guests, and I have connections with all 3 of these from previous years. I have Gloria Molinar here, who is with me. She's one of my former students at El Paso Community College. Gloria, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And Gloria, for a while, worked at El Paso Community College with the Disabled Services. On the other side over there, I have another former student, Vanessa Luna. And Vanessa helped put together a walk against drunk driving for MAD at El Paso Community College we had just a couple of weeks ago. And so I was visiting with Vanessa and I said, I want you to be on my show. And then I suddenly saw Gloria and said, let's do a show together. And then Vanessa lined up a lady that I used to go to church with, and with her family, her husband, our children all went to Jesus Chapel School about the same time. And this is Barbara Macias. And Barbara's husband was killed by a drunk driver. And Gloria was severely injured by a drunk driver. We want to start first with this segment of the program with stories. This basically is sharing stories and then talk about what can be done to deal with drunk drivers. Let's start with yours is the oldest experience, right? When were you in a crash with a drunk driver?
This happened November 21st, 1976.
76?
Yes, sir.
Here we are in the spring of 2010.
Yes. And I'm a miracle.
And what you said to me when I saw you recently and we sit down and you were eating lunch, you said those people that died, such as were represented with posters at the MAD March, you said they're gone, they're at peace.
Right.
But you have been suffering all these years.
Correct.
And those that are left, such as Barbara, Charlie is at peace, yes, but Barbara and the family members are still suffering from this.
Correct.
You brought a little show and tell here. You brought a few pictures. Here is one. I don't know if our camera can pick this up very well. We may get a little bit of a glare there, but I'll turn this. This is your car?
Yes, it is.
Okay, this is what your car looked like having been hit by a drunk driver.
Correct.
How old was the drunk driver? What was happening?
Under the age of 18.
Okay.
Okay. There were 3 or 4 passengers in their car.
Okay.
And they were all drunk, severely drunk.
And you had just gone out for something that evening?
Yes, we had just gone out to have ice cream because we were studying for our finals. And we decided to take a break.
Okay.
And we went for ice cream.
And your life has never been the same?
Never.
Well, bless your heart. Bless your heart. And is this right? Do I need to turn it a different way? Goes this way?
This goes like this.
Okay, goes that direction. What is this?
This is the side where I was at.
Okay.
Okay, here you can see the car got split.
Basically split.
Right, and right here in the stick shift was where my leg got tied around.
Oh, my.
And I was right here, so that the back seat broke, and that's when
It did a lot of internal damage.
Right, 700 pieces cracks in my pelvic area.
Like that.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
And it also hit my brain on the right side, so that caused me to go into a coma for 6 months.
So you've had multiple therapies throughout the years
Yes,
dealing
sir.
with all of these situations.
Yes,
Now, is
sir.
this your car or is this his car?
That's my husband's car.
That's your
That's
husband's
the
car.
one that got thrown into the complex.
Okay. And then this one, which way does it go? Does it go like this or does it go like this? Goes like this?
Like that.
Okay. And what are we looking at here?
That is the car of the individuals, and here's a beer bottles. There were black something
Yeah, right.
that were thrown.
Okay, so that was your episode, and let's deal with Barbara just a brief here. Then let's talk about the crash that involved Charlie. I was listening to the TV news one evening a number of years ago, and they mentioned avoid the intersection of Hawkins and Montana because there's been a severe crash there, and I've talked about that. And at some point in the next day, I guess we heard it was Charlie Macias. And I turned to my wife, Shanna Blevins, and I said, we know them, the Maciases at Jesus Chapel Fellowship. And so we began to pray for you, of course, immediately. And so tell us about this. I know your reaction that day, you were on the telephone calling to warn him about the location.
Wow.
And his cell phone was lying out there in the intersection. That's what I remember so dramatically on the news. Tell us about this.
Well, what happened was I had gotten home from visiting my mom and my dad, and it was around 5 o'clock. And usually when you turn the TV on, you see the breaking news and all this, and that's what I saw.
Right.
And the first thing that I saw was the back end of the car, not knowing what the car was or anything. I just saw the back end. And so when I looked at it, I just kind of went, wow, this is a bad accident. Whatever it is, it's just really bad. And so then I continued to watch the news. But the one where we got more or less an idea of to what had happened was when my son Gabriel had called me at 5:30, because he wasn't living with us at the time, and he used to go through that intersection every day to go back where he was.
Right.
And so he ended up calling me at 5:30, and when he called me, he just, he said, "Mom, you need to see the news. A really bad crash happened right now. It was awful. I know that somebody died because I saw the body there. There was a man standing over, like the smoke and everything had just happened when he passed."
Right.
And when he told me, I just like froze for a while, and I said, "Gabe, what time was this at?" And then he said, "Oh, well, I was running late, so probably about 4:44, somewhere around there." And I said, "Okay." But at that moment, it's kind of like something just came over me, and I thought, "Oh my goodness, that's where Charlie comes through all the time, right?" So when I finished with him, he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Watch the news because we really need to pray for these people. We don't know, somebody died."
Oh, my.
Not knowing that was his father that he, got a glimpse of. So I hung up with him, and as soon as I hung up, that's when I started calling Charlie on the cell phone, and there was no answer. So probably about half an hour, 45 minutes later, 6:30, was when I finally got impatient, and I went next door to my neighbor. I told her what I felt, and I drove to the scene.
Right.
And when I drove to the scene, of course, the police officers are trying to tell me to go a different way, so I ended up just disobeying, and I said, "I'm going,"
Right.
And I did. And once I got to the parking lot and I parked the car, and my neighbor was with me, and we started walking towards the crash, and I could see the back end of the car then. And when I turned to the other side, and that's when I saw the front end, and that's when I said, "That's Charlie's car."
The car was actually split in half.
Oh yes, it was split in half,
Right.
So at that moment, I just said, "That's Charlie's car." And then I said, at that time, I just started asking questions, And, so at that moment, it's like the police officers are coming towards me. One of them, Lieutenant Velasquez, had said, "I was just getting ready to go and inform you about this, but we had to make sure that you were the one related to him,
Right.
Because I had all these people in front of me, and then when he did tell me, you don't expect that. You expect him to say that he's badly hurt, that something's wrong, but not that he's dead.
Right.
And so when they turned and they told me, "I'm sorry to say, Miss Macias, but your husband has been killed," and I just fell, and they caught me, and at that moment, it's like I was like in slow motion. I didn't know what to think, what to do, and at that point, asked my neighbor to bring my truck around so I could sit in it. And when I didn't know that one of the men who was in front of me standing there was a chaplain, the police chaplain. And he came over to me and he says, "What can we do for you? Who do we call?" And at that moment, I just kind of went, "Oh my gosh, Gabriel, you know, he saw this and he doesn't even know that that was his dad that he saw on the floor there."
Oh, my.
And so he says, "Okay, who can we call?" And so it just went into motion right away. And then after that, he just says, "Who else can we call?" And the first person that came to my mind was my pastor. And I said, I need my pastor, Charlie Flores, you know, he's from Calvary. And, "Oh, I know him." So, I mean, and within minutes, I had so many people there, you know, but it's like from that moment on, it's like I was like in an,
Right.
like, what is
The
happening?
love of your life was gone and you had to start from that
Yes,
position.
it's like, what happened, you know?
Right.
Like I say, you never think it's going to happen to you.
Well,
So,
this is a short program, but I want to give it time to show something here. You brought us some pictures
yes.
of Charlie and other family members, and we remember some of these from when we all went to Jesus Chapel Fellowship at that time.
Yes.
So you have some of these. We'll give them a chance to maybe get a little bit of a look at that. And then you brought another one behind that. And you go out and do programs where you show these and you tell your story
Yes.
to try to make a difference. He'd been in the military, and so these are some pictures. And these have an impact. But you know, the drunks aren't paying attention to us.
No.
They're not paying attention to us. They're drinking their drinks as if it's just a pleasure drink, not thinking about the consequences. It's an intoxicant. It affects the brain, and they're not able to function very well. Now, we want to deal with the other side of this. Oh, you have another show and tell here.
Well, this is just a picture of our family now. You know, what is left of, you know, my boys and us that we, you know, it's a picture without Charlie. But when you see the boys in there,
Right.
you see Charlie, you know, and this is what our life is just made up of now.
Yeah.
Memories that we had before and now what we have now.
That's
I
right.
have a beautiful grandson who never got to meet him, but knows him through pictures. So,
Because of what a drunk driver did to change
Yes.
your life. Okay. Well, now we want to move to Vanessa then. Let's talk about what can be done about this. I've participated in a variety of marches on some of these. Some of us years ago in the 1970s, mid-70s, we worked to get alcoholic beverages banned from drinking in the public park. And so we were concerned about this, people getting drunk there and driving off from like Album Park. Tell us about how you got involved with MAD and what things does MAD do to deal with these kind of crisis situations?
I was very fortunate not to have lost a loved one or had a loved one injured through an alcohol-related crash. However, my passion and my heart is with all the victims and survivors of alcohol-related crashes. Our mission is to stop drunk driving, support victims of the violent crime, and prevent underage drinking. And so that's why I'm here today, to support Miss Barbara, Miss Gloria, with them sharing how they have been affected. And one of the main mission is really to stop drunk driving. Drunk driving is 100% preventable, and we believe that there is a nation that is possible without drunk driving. And so we, like you said, are working with legislators to prevent more crashes, to save lives, to prevent more injuries from occurring in the future.
Barbara, I understand you went to city council
yes.
and other legislative bodies saying, let's do something about it. And I know one of the things you did had to do with that intersection at Hawkins and Montana.
Yes, I was approached by some other members of insurance companies to see if we could get the cameras. They approached me saying, would you be interested in going to city council to fight for us to see if we could get the cameras up? And I said, yes, I would be definitely. So me and my son Gabriel, we did, push that a lot. I did go to city council and talked to them and told them, and I gave them my story. I said, if it even just saves one or two people, let's try it, because like always, it's skeptical at the beginning, you have the ones that say, well, this is a money-making incident, and I wanted to really tell them, I said, it's not about money-making issues here. We're trying to prevent lives from being killed, and if we can stop one person by these cameras, by being careful, then that's what I think we can do. And I was glad that it passed and it went through, and I just heard recently that we're going to be putting some more up again because it has had some prevention somewhere in there,
Well, I remember that MAD, when we first joined MAD years ago, that even before Jorge's case in our own family situation developed, is that there was a move to change the legal limit of alcohol in the system.
Yes.
And a lot of people fought that and fought it and fought it and fought it. Many people fought open containers in the car. And eventually we got some legislation on some of these things. Is there anything else you're working on legislation you'd like to see that government changes so we can get drunks off the road?
Currently, we are working with the state legislators, and I have to say that Ms. Barbara has been a huge proponent in that as well. We're working with legislators to pass sobriety checkpoints. Since 2001, we have been pushing sobriety checkpoints, which is a checkpoint where officers, law enforcement would check to see if citizens who are driving are under the influence. If they are under the influence, they would be arrested for driving while intoxicated. So we've been trying to push this, the organization, along with our volunteers, victims, and survivors, to get this passed through legislative, because we do believe through passing that will encourage, first of all, save lives and stop injuries from happening.
Right. Now, Gloria, did you ever go to speak to any bodies, city councils, whatever, to try to make a difference on this?
Yes, I have. I've spoken to the city council, and I've also spoken at the high school level, and churches. I just try to get around all
Whoever
kinds of
will
people.
listen, you'll talk to
Right.
them.
No, not whoever listens. I make them.
You make them. I hope I called your name right. Gloria.
Gloria.
Gloria. Yeah, and that's important. You have a voice.
Uh-huh.
You don't have a lot of money, right?
Right.
But you have a voice.
Uh-huh.
And you also, you never told me at community college that I remember that your injuries were from a drunk driver.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea because we didn't discuss why
Right,
you were
right.
injured and so on. So it is good at this point in life to know and that you've made a difference in some of this.
Well, the thing is that I was in bad shape, very bad shape. I couldn't walk before, and with my efforts and efforts above, they gave me that opportunity again. I'm being able to walk now. I do have other physical problems,
Right.
like my thinking ability, but I just have to work at it.
There's another thing that comes in here. Years ago, I had a student named Richard Cardinal. He was in a swimming accident and a broken spine, just a little accident going swimming. And he and I got a move to put signs at the elevators, handicap priority. You remember those signs?
Right.
And then we worked to get electric doors, at least on each building.
Right.
And Richard Cardinal and Tom Pugh and some others.
Yeah.
You remember Tom?
Yes.
And you were speaking out on some of these, and eventually we got some electric doors.
We sure did.
So it takes people like you and these others to make a difference.
Right.
And always they would say, money. Oh, that costs money to do
Yes.
that.
And I also was able to put, I went to City Hall to get some four-way stop signs put at the Estudiante
Okay.
Street
Okay.
by the college, because they were really going wild.
Hard
with
to
it.
get through there. Right, yeah.
And we got them up.
Okay, good. Barbara, anything else you'd like to mention before our time runs out completely?
I think I'll just like to say that we also worked very closely with Fort Bliss
Good.
in a lot of the issues with this. We were very grateful that we had Colonel Smith, who was with us on board a couple of years ago, and was able to get the law passed at Fort Bliss, where the soldiers now have to be of age to drink. It's not no longer 18;
Right.
it is now to 21. So that was a big thing for him and for a lot of people that we pushed that. And I just think if we just get our community involved in a lot of these things, we would be able to be out there more.
And just a couple of years ago, one of the community college students, Valerie Talamantes,
Yes.
was killed at that same intersection, and
Right.
killed by a drunk soldier
Yes.
going through that specific intersection.
He had just come back, like Vanessa said, from being in Iraq, and they had gone through the process where they were told, you have so many weeks of this and you don't do this, and it just doesn't work sometimes. So
No,
you know,
the people that drink heavily, they don't listen
No,
to those kind of things.
but
Let's talk about victim impact statements. Vanessa, you work with this program. I see from time to time on the weekends, especially signs at community college, victim impact statement meeting here. You help set those up?
Yes, sir, we do. And it's actually Victim Impact Panels. Victim Impact Panel is a court-mandated program which judges mandate offenders, DWI offenders, who usually are first-time DWI offenders, to attend our Victim Impact Panel. The Victim Impact Panel consists of several individuals who give their personal testimony of how they've been affected, whether they've been injured or whether they had a loved one killed through an alcohol-related crash, so that these offenders are able to see it's not only statistics, it's not only fines, it's actual individuals who have been affected as a result of drinking and driving. And so both Miss Gloria and Miss Barbara are volunteers at the Victim Impact Panel and have spoken to multiple offenders who attend our classes at community college. We have a class every Friday and they are filled to capacity. We have 60 seats that are available, and it is saddened to see that every Friday we do have 60 individuals who fill that class, and both Gloria and Barbara do speak out, and I think it's just if we're able to make an impact on one individual, we're able to encourage and show change to that individual, so that hopefully next time if they are placed in that situation, they choose not to drink and drive because they remember Gloria's story, they remember Barbara's story, they remember Charlie, and so that is our goal, is to be able to make change in individuals' minds.
Well, I started teaching at community college in 1972. In all of these years, I've had police officers tell me the most dangerous nights of the week are Friday night and Saturday night, especially after the bars are closed, that there are drunks driving all over the place in our cities around the country, not just El Paso, Texas. Now, victim impact statement, that's like in court, right?
Victim impact statement, yes, is in court.
Okay. Now, Barbara, did you deliver an impact statement in court?
I did. I did face the person who killed Charlie. It was me and Gabriel. We were there, and it's a very hard process because prior to that, you have to think about what you're going to say. And in my case, I really prayed a lot
Right.
because I wanted to make sure I was going to say the right thing and to be able to get the message out to him. But I was able to face him and let him know how I felt that in 10 years that he was going to be going away.
Right.
He was coming out, and he would see his family, and I wasn't going to have mine anymore. My family was torn apart. It was broken. And then Gabriel, of course, read his statement too, and he read one from Carlos, which was a very hard one because Carlos, like I said at the time, was very angry and upset. And it was a very ugly letter.
But you don't want to be consumed by anger. You have to,
No,
and as a lovely Christian
exactly.
lady, you don't want anger and hatred to get into your life.
No, you don't. So you know, that's why I said it took a little bit for me to think about what I was going to say, and I was good with what I had. But yeah, it's something you do face with the person. He did face me, and he did, put his head down a couple of times, and but it was something. It's something you have to do at that point, and it's kind of closure at the end. I walked out of there, and my pastor was with me and the boys and Vanessa, and I just clung to him, and I talked to Pastor Charlie, and I just said, okay, it's done, it's over, But even though it's over, you go through your life the next, this Monday, May 3rd, will be 5 years. And you're like, wow, how could this have happened? But
Now, you didn't have that chance, did you, Gloria?
No, I didn't.
Nothing like that. That
No.
came later, partly because of MAD and other organizations doing something about that. And
Well,
making-
the reason I didn't go through that because I remember I was in a coma.
you were still
first,
in the, yes.
and trying to after that, trying to recuperate.
Yeah. So it
So I couldn't.
took you a long time.
Right. And then at that time, I moved back to El Paso, and just left that story behind.
Yeah. Now, Vanessa, isn't your job rather hard? Aren't there a lot of clinics around your office?
There is a lot of clinics that we do have, and something I like to mention is we do have support groups that we do have twice a month within our office for bereaved and injured victims and survivors, and so for that reason we do have a lot of clinics. Our goal through our organization is really to be able to connect victims and survivors so that they know that they're not alone, and they are not alone, and we are here to support them. And so it is a difficult job, but it is fulfilling because we're able to help individuals who are in a need, their most darkest need. And if we're able to show them a little bit of light and show them that there's hope and giving them a voice, just like you said, giving them a voice not only in the court system, but also being able to make an impact on other individuals. And that is what makes the job very fulfilling.
Well, I know this is a sad subject to deal with, but I teach my students, and have for years, that if you have to work extremely hard to get your education, to get through it, maybe twice as hard as I had to work to get an education. I had wonderful teachers, lots of equipment in the schools I attended. And I tell the students here with a lot of disadvantages on our border, poverty and language differences and so on, that you ought to be real proud of yourself.
Very
You ought to
proud.
be real proud of what you achieved in
Very.
spite of what that person did to you.
Very proud.
And that's my commendation to you. Same with you, Barbara. You ought to be proud that you and your children worked through this, and now you're a servant,
Yes.
and you're trying to make a difference. You are making a difference, not just trying to make a difference. You're making a difference in this particular aspect. So you got through the grieving process. The memories, I teach, remember the crystal moments, those treasures you never will forget, that smile, that
Right.
even the ice cream, times you went before the crash, that you had those wonderful times. And so that's the way I try to stress when bad things happen to good people. You always come through that and say, Lord, I can do it. Give me the strength and help me to go the next step. Vanessa, you're the one that started us deciding to do this. Last word.
Last word, just want to let everybody out there in the community know that if they are a victim or a survivor, please contact our office.
You need to give a telephone number.
Yes, our phone number is area code 915-779-1987, and we have free victims services for any victims, survivors of alcohol-related crashes, and that they're not alone, that Matt is here to help and support. And again, our mission to stop drunk driving. We do believe that there is a possibility of a nation out there with drunk driving and prevent underage drinking. That is our mission.
Well, very good. Well, it's been a great pleasure having you here. I can't reach over and hold all of your hands and say thank you, but I do thank you for being here,
Thank you for
sharing your
having us.
story and making a difference. Maybe I'll come to some of your meetings and
Sure.
some of your meetings and get in on it when I have the opportunity. Thank you for watching Perspectives El Paso. Tune in again another time and watch another interesting program.